Greetings, philosophers, and welcome to the Philosophy Zone, the podcast where we unpack the big ideas that have shaped how we think about the world, ourselves, and everything in between. Today we're stepping into the ancient agora of Athens to explore two titans of thought, Plato and Aristotle. These guys didn't just write books, they laid the foundations for how we wrestle with questions about reality, truth, and what it means to live a good life. So grab a coffee, settle in, and let's get philosophical. Picture Athens around 400 BCE. It's a bustling city full of markets, temples, and people arguing about everything from politics to the nature of the gods. This is the world where Plato and Aristotle emerge, not as dusty old scholars, but as vibrant thinkers trying to make sense of a chaotic universe. They're like the rock stars of ancient philosophy, each with their own style, their own resonance. Plato's the dreamer, the guy who's always looking up at the stars, while Aristotle's the one with his feet on the ground, dissecting plants and animals to figure out how the world ticks. Together, they're the yin and yang of Western thought. Let's start with Plato. Born around 428 BCE, he's a young aristocrat who gets swept up in the intellectual ferment of Athens. His teacher is none other than Socrates, the gadfly of the city, who goes around asking annoying questions like, "What is justice?" or "What is truth?" until everyone's head hurts. Socrates doesn't write anything down, but he leaves a huge mark on Plato, who starts scribbling down these dialogues, imaginary conversations where characters debate the big stuff. If you've ever read one of Plato's works like The Republic, it's like eavesdropping on a really smart argument at a dinner party. Plato's big idea is what we call the theory of forms. Now, don't let the name scare you. It's actually pretty wild when you break it down. He says the world we see around us, tables, chairs, trees, even people, isn't the real deal. It's like a shadow, a blurry copy of something more perfect. The real stuff, the true reality, exists in this other realm of perfect forms. Think of it like this. Every chair you've ever seen is just a knockoff of the perfect idea of a chair that exists somewhere out there in the cosmic blueprint. The chair you're sitting on? It's got scratches, maybe a wobbly leg. But the form of the chair, it's flawless, eternal, unchanging. This might sound like Plato's been sipping too much of the Athenian wine, but stick with me. He's trying to solve a problem. Why do things in the world keep changing, breaking, dying, while our ideas about them, like beauty or goodness, seem timeless? For Plato, the forms are the answer. They're the ultimate truth behind the messy world we live in. It's why he thinks philosophers should be kings, not because they're good at politics, but because they're the ones who can glimpse these eternal truths and guide society toward them. Let's take a famous example from Plato, the allegory of the cave. Imagine people chained up in a dark cave facing a blank wall. All they can see are shadows projected on the wall by objects behind them, lit by a fire. They think the shadows are reality because it's all they've ever known. One day, a prisoner breaks free, discovers the outside world, and realizes the shadows aren't real. They're just reflections of real things. That's Plato's point. Most of us are like those prisoners stuck in a world of illusions, and philosophy is the way to climb out and see the truth. It's a radical idea, and it's why Plato's still got us thinking thousands of years later. But here's the thing. Plato's ideas are beautiful, but they're also kind of out there. He's all about this perfect, abstract world of forms. But what about the real world? That's where Aristotle comes in, shaking his head like, "Plato, mate, come back to earth. Aristotle, born in 384 BCE, is Plato's student, but he's not the kind who just nods along. He's a bit of a rebel. Where Plato's gazing at the heavens, Aristotle's got his hands in the dirt, literally. He's studying fish, plants, stars, politics, you name it. If Plato's the poet of philosophy, Aristotle's the scientist. He wants to know how things work, not just what they might be in some perfect realm. Aristotle's big beef with Plato is the theory of forms. He's like, okay, fine. A perfect chair might exist in some cosmic dimension, but what good does that do me when I need to sit down? For Aristotle, reality is right here, in the stuff we can see, touch, and study. He says everything in the world, every tree, every person, has its own essence, its own purpose built into it. A tree's purpose is to grow, spread its leaves, make seeds. A human's purpose, to think, to reason, to live well. This idea of purpose, or telos, is huge for Aristotle. Everything's got a job to do, and understanding that job is how we make sense of the world. Take ethics, for example. Plato's all about chasing the perfect form of the good, but Aristotle's more practical. In his Nicomachean Ethics, he says the good life isn't about some abstract ideal. It's about finding balance. He calls it the golden mean. Courage, for instance, is the sweet spot between being a coward and being reckless. Generosity is the balance between stinginess and throwing your money away. It's like Aristotle's giving us a recipe for living well. Don't go to extremes, find the middle path, and practice it until it's second nature. Aristotle's also the guy who basically invents logic. He's like, if we're going to argue about truth, let's do it properly. He comes up with rules for reasoning, like the syllogism. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. Sounds simple, but this is the foundation for how we argue and think systematically, even today. Whether you're coding a computer or debating politics, you're using Aristotle's tools. Now let's not make this a cage match between Plato and Aristotle. They're not opposites. They're more like two sides of a coin. Plato's asking, what's the ultimate truth behind everything? Aristotle's asking, how does everything work and how can we live better in this world? Plato's got his head in the clouds, dreaming of perfection. Aristotle's got his feet on the ground, studying the world as it is. Together, they give us a way to think about both the big picture and the nitty-gritty details. Let's zoom out for a second. Why do these two matter today? Well, think about it. Plato's ideas about truth and reality are still alive when we debate what's real in a world full of fake news, deepfakes, and virtual reality. His allegory of the cave. It's like a warning about getting stuck in echo chambers or believing everything we see on our screens. And Aristotle, his ideas about purpose and balance are practically self-help gold. Every time you hear someone talk about finding your purpose or living your best life, that's Aristotle whispering in their ear. His logic still shapes how we argue, how we build AI, how we make sense of the universe. Here's a fun way to think about their differences. Imagine Plato and Aristotle walk into a coffee shop. Plato's the guy who orders a complicated artisanal latte because it's the closest thing to the perfect coffee in his mind. He's probably sketching utopias on a napkin. Aristotle's the one who orders a black coffee, no fuss, and starts analyzing the beans, the brewing process, and whether the barista's got the right technique. Plato's chasing the ideal, Aristotle's dissecting the real. But they're not just relics of the past. Their ideas clash and complement each other in ways that still spark debates. Science versus spirituality, idealism versus pragmatism. These are the tensions we live with. Should we chase a perfect society like Plato might, or focus on improving the one we've got, like Aristotle? Should we trust our senses, or is there a deeper truth we're missing? These aren't just abstract questions. They're the kind of things that shape how we vote, how we love, how we live. Let's wrap this up with a challenge. Next time you're faced with a big decision, maybe about your career, your relationships, or even what to believe about the world, try channeling Plato and Aristotle. Ask yourself, what's the ideal I'm aiming for, the perfect version of this choice? That's Plato talking. Then ask, what's the practical, balanced way to get there, given the world as it is? That's Aristotle. Between the two, you might just find a path that's both visionary and grounded. Thanks for joining me in the Philosophy Zone. If you enjoyed this dive into Plato and Aristotle, share it with someone who loves a good idea or a good argument. Until next time, keep questioning, keep thinking, and we'll meet again in the agora of ideas. Cheers.